Welcome to Wrestling Retold and Relived with Richie Mars. I, of course, am your gracious host, Richie Mars, and I'm back with a returning guest. You might have heard him on the Rey Mysterio 2006 episode and the Nexus episode, but now he is here. It is DFD. It is Don't Follow David himself.
I like that.
Welcome
I
back,
like
my
that.
man.
It's not bad. You know what? I might change it up today. I might, finally let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll see.
Coming out party.
We'll see.
As a fan, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me just tell you, it's very dangerous.
That's why I prevented myself to this day. So we'll see how it goes, though.
Yeah. So anyway, we've actually together came up with this topic because it hit me like a eureka moment. It hit you like a eureka moment.
It really did. Yeah. I think it's a fun thing to talk about here.
Yeah. We go to the same gym. I enter the locker room, and I say, you know what's a great idea for a topic? And you're like, that's just so funny. I had a topic in mind. And we both said Christian Cage, and our minds just kind of blew. I'm like, all right, that's what we're talking about.
For some reason, it's a time and place type of thing in this. And as we were saying off mic, we're giving him his just desserts, really, to everything that he deserves. That we feel like he really hasn't really, had that, that moments, that thank you moments, or that
he never really got his flowers.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Very underrated superstar, even in history. Not even WWE, just wrestling.
Yeah.
In general, is a multi-time champion.
Mm-hmm.
But the way, obviously, as we said off mic as well, the ways he won were very different.
Yeah, Christian, we're talking about Christian from the famous tag team, Edge and Christian, his time in WWE, Impact, and now AEW. We really feel like he, at least for our era, I guess they call it the ruthless aggression era.
Yeah.
Was one of the most underappreciated stars of his time. And I think, arguably, he influenced a style that is used to this day, and I feel like his style is like Shawn Michaels in a way that it's timeless, like his timing, his performances. I can honestly say after 2005, I don't remember a bad Christian match.
Yeah. I mean, literally, yeah. I mean, you can definitely argue that tag team, mid event, whatever stipulation match, this man, win or lose, he brought it in there. Like, if you really want to look back at the tape, he had that charisma. So he had that reaction that whether you liked it or not, you were gonna show it. You were gonna showcase that. He had the in-ring ability, which to match that. He had the mic work. Whether he was a heel or a face, that he lit up the room. So what more did you need in a superstar?
And he was really the first of his kind, because we've seen people in WWE, in WCW, they would go back and forth towards each other's promotion. But Christian, he was the first one who
set the stage, right?
He left WWE, went to Impact to raise his stock to a certain point, go back to WWE, and arguably be more successful than he was in his first run.
One can argue yes and no, I feel like. Yes, he definitely made himself into a main event superstar, in my opinion. I mean, he already had the characteristics of the guy from beforehand. Impact, TNA, really helped. It put it on a stage, on a better platform. It gave him the ball and kind of, was like, okay, what are we going to do with that here? And he really did a lot with it. He did everything he could.
Now, we were still kind of new fans at this point. Did you think Christian was the guy before he left WWE? Or did that kind of dawn on you after his performances in Impact against Jeff Jarrett, against Kurt Angle, against Sting?
I'm not going to sit here and say I was the biggest Christian fan prior to his departure in WWE. I didn't, hate him or like him or anything. I thought he was a good wrestler, a good superstar, whatever you want to call him. But I didn't see him as a main event guy at all. I saw him as a pretty decent mid-carder. But world title picture? No. No. Him going to TNA, whether it be the talent, the different talent that was around him, the different style as well, I think had a lot to contribute to that. They gave him a platform to really just do what he was destined to do, and that was to be a main event wrestler. I think what TNA best did, especially early on, was kind of like shine the bright light on him, and kind of like opened, in my eyes included, everyone's eyes as to like what type of guy he is and could be, going forward.
Now, when you say shine the light on him,
Yeah,
that can mean a lot of things. Shine
Sure.
the light in that he was given the proper amount of time in his segments, the proper amount of time to carry different feuds. He was in the main mix right away.
yeah,
And some feel it was detrimental to other homegrown TNA stars like Monty Brown.
yeah,
And he was in there with Jeff Jarrett. He was in there with Sting. He was in there with Abyss.
Right.
He was in there with later when he turned heel with Rhino, with AJ Styles.
of course, yes.
When you say shine a light, do you mean like I'm not gonna put words in your mouth,
Sure.
obviously. Like, what exactly did you mean by that?
So they're giving him not the time, really. Just plain and simple as the time. I feel like be in WWE and all the years prior, being in the same company for so long and the history that he's had, his ceiling was limited from, the powers that may be, Sometimes you always say in sports, you need a change of environment to really thrive. And this is it's not the same sport, but it's sports entertainment, and it's the same thing. It's you sometimes I need to take away a wrestler from where he is, from where he's comfortable, to really see his full potential. And they gave him the full light to kind of just, or I should say, the full time to kind of just do what he could do, and we saw it.
And the reason why we call Christian kind of like a pioneer of these other guys who would leave WWE and then go somewhere else and then come back even bigger. Look at Drew McIntyre. Look at Cody Rhodes. All of them seemingly had a ceiling in WWE.
Yeah.
When Drew McIntyre left, he was 3MB. When Cody Rhodes left, he was Stardust.
Wow.
And they had to rebuild their name. They did go to TNA, but they also carried names on the Indies.
Which
in
helped,
Cody's
of course.
case, New Japan. He might have started another company. But
Maybe.
But Christian was really that first guy where we would see a different style with him carrying himself like a main event star. Like he knew that he had this ability. Now it was everybody else to see that he can handle
Right.
being in like a high pressured situation, because in WWE he was mostly the sidekick. He was Edge's sidekick.
Or the butt of the joke.
He was
to an extent.
Chris Jericho's sidekick.
Yeah.
And I don't like this term, the Marty Jannetty, because it is a
Tough term.
not only a tough term, it's something that people say to. I feel like us as fans have been trained to accept that there's always going to be a Shawn Michaels and there's always going to be a Marty Jannetty of a team.
Yeah.
And that puts the ceiling on the other guy, whether you mean for it to or not. You could say it's like, oh, WWE obviously sees them as the Jannetty, but look at the people that we thought were the Shawn Michaels to the Marty Jannetty, like
We were wrong.
John Morrison and The Miz.
Perfect example.
Right. And who knew like Miz would be as big as he is, and who knew John
The Miz knew.
Morrison would not go past the certain level.
Yeah, his ceiling was, unfortunately, his ceiling was never rose, or his ceiling was never taken seriously, and that can be either, his own problem. Again, it could be the powers that may be, combination of both, whatever it may be. But no, you make a great point. You just never know who is going to be who in that situation.
And in Christian's case, being tied with someone as legendary as Edge,
Yeah.
His legendary career. If Christian wasn't a team with Edge, and you look at his accomplishments, Christian's accomplishments, it's an amazing career.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But because you're always comparing, not you specifically, just people
Of
in
course.
general, you're comparing two different careers. It's almost like, hey, we're going to compare Christian to, I don't know, give me like some,
Well, you
like,
know what it is though
mhm,
is, in my opinion, I think it's almost natural that we as people always, or we as fans always, do that comparison, right?
like we gravitate
Like
towards
one or
one.
the
Yeah.
other, because you always want to see in a team, like, tag team wrestling in general has changed obviously over the decades. Back in the day, you had two teams. Someone like the Road Warriors, who without each other they weren't as strong as a team together. Together, they were one of the most unstoppable tag teams out there.
Hmm.
But you separate them, it's like, for sure, respectable. They can hold their own, but to what extent? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that's not. It's some fault of their own again. It could be it's the fault of the brass, but they they're doing whatever they can do.
I call it the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels effect,
Okay. Mm.
where you saw this staircase kind of pattern
Yeah.
of how they accomplished their rise to stardom. And a lot of stars after that would accomplish that. And when we saw Edge like capture that,
Yeah.
like, and we knew it's like, okay, there's gonna be big things for Edge. Like, he won
Money in the Bank.
Money
Yeah.
in the Bank. This
Mhm.
guy's gonna be the next world champion, and we didn't even know Money in the Bank would be as huge as it is.
What a crazy concept.
And we were kind of waiting for that for Christian.
Yeah. Like when was that moment? When was that like big domino gonna fall for him? And it never really fell. He happened to
Yeah.
be the one to actually fall, quote unquote.
And it was being, pardon the term here, but it's like being blue balled.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for, it's like shaking the soda can, and you're waiting. It's like, all right, let's let the fizz go crazy, and it just never happened. It's like, all right, we're just gonna put this back in the fridge.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep that on ice for a little bit, and that's unfortunately what they did with Christian at the end of his run, because he was getting, as a bad guy, he was getting some of the loudest cheers. He even said, after having a match with Batista, who was world heavyweight champion at the time, and Batista is very complimentary. Batista's just one of the most all-around nice dudes,
Absolutely.
and I'm so happy for his success and stuff in Hollywood.
Great movies. Great
Yeah.
movies.
And Christian said after that, for the next 3 weeks, his merch sales, his T-shirt sales, were on the same par as John Cena, who they were grooming as the guy
Right.
at
Exactly.
that point, and Rey Mysterio, who to kids is a
Oh,
legitimate superhero.
Yeah.
And for Christian to be on like kind of the same level as that in merch sales,
Shows you a
like
lot
in
right
my
there,
mind, I'm
right?
just kind of like, all right, let's go with this guy. But unfortunately, I feel like at this time this is when The Rock kind of left,
Yeah. Yeah. Right after.
and I feel like at this point they wanted to make WWE the brand. They didn't want a singular star to outshine the brand, so to speak.
I see what you're saying.
And they had the perfect guy in John Cena to lead that. Hey, John Cena is WWE.
Right.
And they want to control the popularity of some people, because the more popular you get, the more of a pull you might have.
Of course. Yeah.
And more of a snag in negotiations, possibly. Again, I don't know. I don't work there. But that just kind of makes sense in my own
I mean,
mind,
you're not wrong. I mean, it's just more common sense. I feel like, if anything,
Mhm.
Christian is like you said, a pioneer, and that's a term that's thrown around from time to time. Sometimes deservedly so. It's like kind of what you touched on earlier. You saw Christian go, and then you saw someone a little bit later come in, someone like Kurt Angle.
Mhm.
Now another legend, and both guys left their mark in TNA and really rose the stock of TNA and really made it to what it is today, or at least back then.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that in TNA Christian was appreciated for, I don't throw this word around, legend
Yeah.
that he is, because here's a guy who pioneered the TLC match. Here's a guy who,
A lot of people forget.
despite getting the shaft sometimes in whatever you want to say, storyline segments. He would make the most out of everything he was in. This, if it he was just like a background character, when he had the long hair, he was doing like the fits and he was just like throwing tantrums.
Being a brat, of course.
And he would make it his own. And he would embrace that character when a lot of people would just be like, "Oh, I'm not doing that. That's gonna make me look stupid." Christian's
Right.
like, "Great. What am I gonna do?" Like,
He takes the ball and just runs with it.
and it's just like Christian is what I want in a superstar. I wish we could have like 10 more like him.
You know why? Is it's the look. It's the guy who's not 6'5", 300 pounds, whatever.
Right.
You know, but even so, as like I think if Christian was in today's day and age, or even like a few years ago, he would be thriving. Like if this was his prime right now, oh, I think he's thriving. Like you don't need the big man look. Now, do they want it? For sure. Is it recommended? Yes.
Mhm.
But as we saw, sometimes your actual hard work outshines everything else and pushes the ball into your corner regardless.
Right.
So, and I think Christian would have been no different than anybody else, as we saw with Daniel Bryan, Kofi,
Yeah.
et cetera,
And
et cetera.
I'm gonna get to Kofi Kingston
Sure.
like right now because Kofi Kingston for his first one-on-one WWE Championship match.
Yeah.
It took him 11 years to get that moment. He never had a one-on-one WWE Championship before that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very rare when somebody gets their first WWE Championship when being in the company for a decade plus.
Yeah.
So if Christian doesn't leave, does he become champion?
That's, if you want my honest answer, I say no. And I know the landscape of WWE, was changing in the years after that, little by little. But I mean, even so, if you look at the years upcoming after that, you had Cena really dominating that whole era. Regardless of what brand he was on, he was the guy. So I don't think that they would have been able to really build him up correctly. I think they were more focused on guys like The Undertaker, Mark Henry, Batista, big names like that, and big-bodied boys like that, that they just really, wanted to give the time to. What Christian did was he had perfect timing with the whole situation. You got TNA, brand new, fresh company, like only a couple years in the running.
Just starting on Spike TV.
That's right. Great network. You know what I mean? And you had exposure. You already had some names from the prior, legends. Even if you had once in a while appearances from other legends, whatever, and you had young wrestlers, hungry wrestlers, and you had a guy like Christian who was a hungry guy himself. You put that all together with the veteran, and he himself is a veteran. So like, it's almost like it was bound to work.
When competition isn't a main focus, the writing may become a little lackluster. And this was an idea proposed to Christian. I'm not sure if you remember this, but The Rock, he was in Hollywood rock mode, and Christian was kind of being his number one fanboy, and he would like, and that's why he calls his fans the peeps, because it was the take on the people.
Right.
So that's how the whole peep thing came out. Apparently, it was pitched to Vince on an airplane where people were drinking
Oh boy.
that Christian should shave his head like The Rock,
Oh boy.
and he would switch his name to The Lock. You
Oh.
want to know why?
Why?
Because it's a lock that he's going to win a match.
Oh no. Oh no. How much drinking was there? Oh no.
Apparently there was a lot of wine.
Oh my god. What the? Oh. Okay. That's enough
So-
wine for that.
So once they landed and they asked Vince about it, he was like, "Well, why would we do that?"
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Of
It's
course.
like, yeah, why would we do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just
Look at that.
just seems they wanted to pigeonhole Christian in this comedy role. And when he honestly, I think he proved himself to be a viable character in a storyline with the Chris Jericho, Trish Stratus storyline.
I think he really shined in that storyline as well. I think being how great he was in that storyline and the ending outcome, we all saw the WrestleMania moment with Christian and
Yeah,
Trish.
Trish was originally Jericho's boo. Jericho
Mm-hmm.
betrayed her. And
Yep.
Christian was trying to drive that wedge apart. It's like I'm still your best friend, but I kind of want the girl at the same time. And it was kind of leading towards somewhere where Trish was forgiving Jericho, but then they did the swerve,
Last second.
and Trish turned on Jericho, and then Christian and Trish became Trishjan, and
Christian.
wreaked havoc on WWE for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? I think that moment honestly really helped improve his stock as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like beating someone like Chris Jericho in WrestleMania, and you have that moment too, like.
And then came the jumpsuits, and then came Captain Charisma, and then came the music change, which is probably one of the best themes
Oh my god!
ever. Waterproof Blondes, Just Close Your Eyes.
So underrated, so amazing to this day. Just can't get enough of it. But I will say this about Christian. Just like you said, the jumpsuits and everything that he did afterwards, and kind of to your point of what he was saying, what you were saying about being the butt of the joke, with Vince and this and that. Like, this man had on Monday Night Raw was in a full on like suit of a mask suit, and he was, remember the cape and everything like that. He had a whole he came out with Tom Go.
Oh, when he was Captain Charisma.
That's literally what it was.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
This was so so the storyline was Chris Jericho was running Raw, and Christian could get an Intercontinental Championship match against Shelton Benjamin, but he had to wear a certain attire. So Christian had to wear long tights with yellow trunk speedos over them.
Oh my god, yellow and red, I think it was.
And he had 2 C's on his suit, and then he had a mask, and it looked like horns, but they were actually
flat.
C's.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, there were C's on the side, so it looked like antlers.
Oh god.
So he looked like Fire Ant from Chikara. No, a few people are gonna get that reference, but just Google Fire Ant Chikara. It's hilarious. And Christian is not Christian; he's Captain Charisma.
Yep. That's
and he made it work.
And listen, I don't know how he could be feeling underneath the mask, but like you said, this dude made it work 110%. Like throwing a tantrum, still healing it up and still getting those reactions. He was getting laughed at. He was still getting booed at. Like, I mean, come on. This guy was like a walking Hall of Famer, and no one knew it.
It's like that saying, you don't know what you have till it's gone.
Right.
And when Christian left, there was a bit of a void. Remember when I said during the Rey Mysterio episode that SmackDown took a tremendous hit after Christian left?
I remember, yeah, with certain stars and
like Eddie passed, unfortunately. Batista got injured.
Wrong time, yeah.
Kurt Angle moved, and then he left, and then
you had JBL who just dropped off.
Retired,
right? So
for a little bit.
So it was not the best time as far as getting new characters, getting new stars into.
Yeah, if you were a SmackDown fan, you you suffered.
Yep. I remember.
And it just seemed like when Christian came to TNA, he was treated with gravitas. He was able to lead his own faction, the Christian Coalition, with Tomko, AJ, gave AJ Styles some personality.
Hell yeah. Yep. More personality.
He had a great feud with Samoa Joe.
He had a lot with Kurt Angle as well.
I'm going to ask you, because we make fun of TNA, the past, when they have, like, ridiculous ideas.
Oh, my God. Yeah, those gimmick matches.
So they said Christian was undefeated, but he would lose matches, but he's never been pinned or submitted. But they will claim Christian's undefeated, even though he loses matches.
Right.
Like, say, a triple threat match, Christian doesn't get pinned. He's still undefeated.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So that was a little bit silly to me, but for the most part, Christian was unscathed by the quote-unquote LOL TNA.
Yes, I see what you're saying. And I think that's just because he was immune to it, to be honest with you. Like, he just had so much going for him. Like, anything he touched kind of turned into gold.
I just remembered a weird match that Christian was in at TNA. Do you remember the Doomsday Chamber of Blood match?
Wow. Oh, I haven't heard that sentence in so long.
The Doomsday Chamber of Blood match, which is a mouthful. It's a
Yes, it is.
6-man tag team cage match. And it was Christian, AJ, and I think Tomko against, this is a wacky team, Sting, Abyss, and the Punisher, Andrew Martin, aka Test.
Right.
And how you win the match, it's no ordinary cage match. I believe there was barbed wire on top of the...
I do. This is coming back to me now, but oh my goodness.
The way to win the match is you only win by pinfall or submission, but the person you're pinning or submitting has to be bleeding. Which is very... I'm not going to say his name. Russo.
Yeah. Yep. I knew it. I was thinking the exact same thing before.
It was
actually.
a very convoluted way to win a match.
Oh God. Yeah, it's literally Russo's
And
ballpark.
The best part is, if I'm remembering this match correctly, because Abyss pinned AJ with a black hold slam, but AJ, he was not bleeding.
Of course not.
Like they try to cover it. It's like, oh, he was bleeding on his arm or something like that, and that counted. And I'm just like, oh boy. But yeah, Christian, that was probably the goofiest thing Christian was involved in, but he wasn't even directly involved in it.
Right. I mean, as you said, just by the sentence structure as it is, it's a mouthful. I mean, you can kind of just chalk that one up to, you already answered it, Vince Russo. I mean, there's nothing more I can really say about that. I mean, that's, yeah, we're going to just ignore that fact.
The Doomsday Chamber of Blood. And there was no blood. There was no chamber. There was no Doomsday.
It was, well, thanks for showing up. You know,
a lot of false advertising.
Absolutely. But speaking of, but you know what's funny? You talk about Doomsday and blood and gore, and then you have Christian who leaves TNA to go back to not Raw, not SmackDown, but ECW.
Not just ECW. WWE CW.
Yes.
This is WWE's version.
Yeah.
So the difference between the original ECW and WWE ECW is it was just ECW in name only. If it was named any other thing besides ECW, it would have been a fine show.
Yeah, they kind of destroyed the memory a little bit.
But it was heavily rumored and speculated for a while that Christian was going to WWE. And I remember you and I were really excited because this is the first time somebody from Impact is coming back to WWE.
Again, kind of setting, the stage for future superstars to do.
And at this time, Jeff Hardy became WWE champion.
Yeah.
And there was a heavy rumor that Christian was gonna attack Jeff because he was feuding with Edge, his old tag team partner, and then we're gonna get Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian.
I remember this. This was a fun time.
And it just seemed so perfect. And the legend goes that since this plan leaked a little bit early,
yeah, everyone knew it.
That they made the switch
last second. Yeah.
They made a kill switch.
Oof.
And they put Christian on the ECW brand.
The C brand.
And they had Matt Hardy turn on Jeff Hardy at the Royal Rumble.
Yep. Cost him the title.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Christian being in ECW, it's not the ideal situation. You have the commentary team who aren't very excited.
Oh my God.
It's Christian.
To say the least. I mean, come on, man. Like,
one of the commentators, Todd Grisham, it's Christian. Like, just like that, just the monotone voice,
and then the line to follow immediately right after. I mean, it was just like such a layup, such an instant classic. This moment. Oh my goodness, I couldn't. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Now again, we rag on ECW, WWE's version of ECW a lot.
Yeah.
But Christian being added to that brand really did help it.
he pretty much put the brand on his shoulders. To be
Mm-hmm.
honest, like you had guys like Finley, Jack Swagger, who was not even like what was a Jack Swagger back then. He came from what that superstar initiative or whatever they were calling it that they were debuting. A new
Oh
superstar. Remember that?
yeah,
Yeah, how
yeah.
Sheamus debuted, how
Oh,
Yoshitatsu, Kofi Kingston.
Ricky Ortiz,
Oh God, wow, I forgot about that one.
Gavin
Oh,
Spears, Sean
you're
Spears.
right. Well, he's doing well.
Christian coming back to ECW. Besides you thinking, wow, this is not the brand he should be on, what were your initial thoughts on Christian coming back to WWE?
I believe you were watching as well.
You actually called me. I wasn't watching.
Okay, so this is what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, I thought you were watching, but I wasn't 100% sure because I thought that I did remind you, or I might have texted you or called you because I was so excited. I was like, because this is what like a Tuesday watching
Yeah,
ECW.
10 o'clock.
Yeah, like it's not the show. It's like the D show really. Behind even TNA, and so I'm just watching randomly, and boom, Christian, and I'm just like I was almost in shock.
You legitimately called me and you said it's Christian, and I could hear like this new music in the background. I'm just
Yeah.
like, no, it's not. So then I turn it, and Christian's in the ring with Swagger, who was ECW champion at the time,
Oh my goodness.
and Christian laying his mark on ECW, saying he wants to go. He's come to ECW to prove himself, and in my head, I'm like, well, you already kind of proved yourself.
Yeah.
But it was a reason for me to watch ECW, which
And-
I think was the goal in mind.
I agree.
And Christian being in ECW, because they still had some reputable names of old ECW. They had Tommy Dreamer. They had experienced vets like Finley. They had
I think they had maybe Balls Mahoney. I think maybe was still
they had
there.
William Regal.
William Regal was there as well. So
They had
they didn't have too many guys lingering from there, but a few vets.
a few vets and some new guys like you said, Yoshichatsu. They had Zack Ryder before he became who
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah, but that ECW is what helped him.
Mhm.
You know,
And
Sheamus as well.
Ezekiel Jackson.
Yeah. Wow.
Just and
I agree.
Christian was able to put on these very good matches with
They were
these
very good.
newcomers.
Very good matches.
And it's
honestly.
really hard to not only have a match with a newcomer who's not familiar with the audience, but to make it engaging. And Christian was able to do that.
Listen, when he captured the ECW title, he really made that into like a respectable third brand.
He made it into the workhorse title in a way.
There's two champions that I look at that WWE ECW brand and that I think of like, okay, these guys really took over. And that's Christian and Matt Hardy.
I agree.
I feel like the list kind of starts and ends right there. That's not disrespectful to any prior ECW champion,
Or
but
post ECW champion.
right. But those guys, especially with that brand, like they made it work, and they were even looked at in some ways from the regular brands as big champions because they were.
In many ways, the WWE version of ECW was a predecessor to what NXT is today,
Yeah.
with a combination of experienced
Right.
vets with people they're trying to groom for Raw.
A
and
little bit of
SmackDown.
everything. Yeah.
And what this did for Christian, not only was he reintroduced to a new audience,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot has changed since he left, like the
Yeah.
PG rating, for instance,
Yeah.
and they also retconned that him and Edge weren't brothers anymore, which made my 14-year-old brain really angry for some reason, because I'm like, no, they're brothers.
Wait till you find out about Kane and Undertaker.
Oh, what?
Oh no, nothing. They're doing fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
no,
That's
they're
all.
good.
That's
Yeah.
all. One's a mayor right
Yeah,
here.
it's a good family reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good.
So Christian has his ECW stint, and ECW is discontinuing as a third brand, and now it's going to be replaced by Game Show NXT. Listen to the Nexus episode of how we thought of that. And it was weird because all ECW stars, it's like, oh, they have open contracts. They could sign with anybody. Christian was a part of Raw.
Right.
Then the draft happens 2 months later. He goes to SmackDown. And he doesn't really do anything of note. He just kind of is in where he was prior to leaving. He was instead of he's not a bad guy anymore, he's a good guy. And there was some like teasing tension between him and Matt Hardy, and this was at the time where Matt was still feeling kind of like the backlash of Jeff leaving. And it's unfortunate that at this time, because I'm a huge Matt Hardy fan. This is before Broken Universe Matt Hardy too. And I always loved V1 Matt Hardy. And they didn't really have anything for him. And same with Christian. And then Christian got injured by Alberto Del Rio. Christian came back to fight off Del Rio against Edge because Del Rio was going to face Edge at WrestleMania.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And and I wanted to see if you remember this because they advertised this on Raw that this was going to happen. Like, remember they would have an advertisement. It's like, oh, this Friday on SmackDown or this Thursday on SmackDown.
Right.
This was gonna happen.
Yeah, of course.
They had the Core.
Oh, God.
Who were the tag champs at the time. It's like they're going to defend the titles against World Heavyweight Champion Edge and Christian teaming for the first time in like 8 years or something like that. And I'm just like, oh, SmackDown's going to be awesome. I turn on to SmackDown. This match does not happen.
What was that?
I don't know.
So they advertise it.
They did this a lot. Like they would advertise a match.
Yeah.
And then they just wouldn't do it. Like Christian comes back to help Edge against Alberto Del Rio and his henchman Brodus Clay. Shout out Tyrus, NWA champion.
Absolutely. There you go.
Shortly after that, Edge retires.
Abruptly.
They just had the graphic on the screen saying Edge is announcing his retirement tonight.
I remember that actually. Yeah, just like random Raw.
And I either called you or texted you. I'm just like, what angle are they trying to pull here? Because they announced that it was Edge defending the world title against Alberto Del Rio in a ladder match.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? And it was so surreal because for the first minute or so, I was like, all right, how are they going to...
What's the deal?
Why are they using this to promote the Extreme Rules match? And then it got more and more real. Yeah. And it was something I wasn't expecting.
I still didn't believe it, to be honest, when he was... Even after the promo. Like, it didn't... I was kind of waiting for, like, the other ball to drop. You know? Like, like in WWE, you always have to just... No matter what it is, it's just... You always...
We've been...
duped.
As WWE fans, we're kind of trained to look down at the rug to make sure it's not going to be pulled out from under us.
Yeah.
Like when something really good happens, you're like, all right, what's going to happen now? You know, how is it going to like, because that's a good storytelling device usually. 100%. Like you get this hope and then it's like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. Like the perfect example, Daniel Bryan winning the WWE Championship. Then Triple H turning on him, Randy Orton cashing in, and now we have the next program.
That was amazing.
Yeah. I'm not ready to talk about the Authority. I need some time for that.
I mean, I hated it at the time too. I thought it was complete BS. I was pissed. But you know.
Yeah. But
kudos.
But Edge retires, and now the ladder match is going to have the vacant World Heavyweight Championship with Christian versus Alberto Del Rio. And the original plan when Edge was when Edge was going to defend the title with Alberto Del Rio, he was always going to drop it to Alberto, probably due to Christian interfering.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And the plan was, and this is from ENC's Pod of Awesomeness. I really wish it was still around.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
And Edge was going to face Christian at WrestleMania, where Christian would retire him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was going to be Edge's retirement.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, what a send-off that would be.
Very Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, like, a little bit, to an extent.
Yeah.
Ish.
But anyway, it's Christian versus Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship. This is Christian's first world title match.
Oh, my goodness.
I think ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think he might have had a WWE title shot before.
He did, yes, against Cena and Jericho at Vengeance.
Yes, but not a world heavyweight.
Not a one-on-one, I don't think. Or maybe it was against Batista. Anyway, it's his first world title shot being back in the company.
Huge.
And I remember, because this was peak Christian fandom.
He's still one of my favorite wrestlers alive.
And we were both hoping it's just like, oh, we really hope Alberto doesn't win.
I was on edge.
Alberto got
pun.
drafted to the Raw the show before.
Yeah.
And we were thinking it's just like, all right, then it's either a world title is going to go on Raw or it's going to go on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And then Edge distracted Alberto in a Jeep. And Christian climbed up, grabbed the title. Bing, bada, boom. Christian is your new World Heavyweight Champion. And he's crying. Got emotional watching because it's like you're watching this guy finally get his just due.
So amazing.
And...
yeah, so it was.
And anyways, that doesn't really last for long. And I remember because you were this is your period of time where you were very anti-spoiler.
I was pissed.
This is when you were very anti-spoiler. Like, you would not watch the spoilers. I would look at the spoilers because I would go because the show was taped on Tuesday. I usually go out on Friday. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna be home, so I might as well see what's going on. But for whatever reason, I wasn't checking that. I'm like, all right, I'll take his advice. I won't look at the spoilers. And then you text me, and you are angry, and you're like, you're never going to believe what happened. And of course, me being the pessimistic, I'm like, what, did Christian lose the World Heavyweight Champion? And you're like, to Randy Orton, and you were just angry because Randy. You had a big love-hate relationship with Randy. You hear the Rey Mysterio episode for the first part of your hate, but then Randy started winning us over. He was in his big babyface run. He broke away from Legacy.
Yeah.
He was turning the corner, and then
he was doing the pose
again.
Yeah,
doing the pose again. We love the pose.
Come on,
yeah. And Randy Orton beat Christian for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Clean.
On his first title defense on SmackDown. Even though a lot of people talk about John Cena and CM Punk's feud in 2011, this was the rivalry that I liked the most.
And you know why? Because even their matches were excellent. Now,
absolutely, yeah.
Now, I will say this. My point of views were a little jarred in the past with Orton. It was more so I was completely rooting for Christian in every single match, in every single capacity, every single move Randy Orton was doing. I was this ugh. You know,
I remember you bought the Christian shirt, the blue one,
blue and yellow,
the blue yellow, the flip the switch
beautiful,
shirt,
beautiful.
And I remember they would always have the WWE authentic tag at the bottom, and you're like, I'm gonna get rid of this tag because you thought it was so ugly.
I still do. I mean, I'm glad they don't have the tags on the shirt anymore.
Nah, yeah.
I ruined the shirt.
And with Christian, it just kind of felt like his moment got ripped out of his hands, and it felt like it was more for Edge than it was for Christian. It was like to put in, hey, we'll give your buddy a title.
Right. It's almost to say like, well, he's he's there, so it's why not? Not that, well, you worked hard and we believe in you, so we're gonna do this. It could have been almost anybody in Edge's corner. It could have been like, say it was like Rey Mysterio. A random wrestler in his corner. It would have been him. It was his first title win for sure, but it wasn't like it. He didn't. This man didn't work all decades. For his whole life. He was literally wrestling his whole life to get handed a title because of a situation like that's just kind of despicable.
Now this story was Christian would slowly but surely turn heel, turn to the dark side because Randy Orton.
One more match.
Yep, that was the one more match. He became one more match guy. He kept losing to Randy Orton, and he said, "Oh, I'm getting screwed." Because there was one where Christian's foot was under the bottom rope, and then
they didn't call it,
and then the ref didn't call it. There was one where he was just begging for one more match, and I'm gonna drop another thing from the ENC pod of awesomeness, brother. So originally, Randy Orton and Christian's feud was gonna wrap up at Money in the Bank.
Okay.
And the opponent that Randy Orton was gonna face at SummerSlam was Mark Henry.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So, which adds up because at Night of Champions, Randy Orton defended it against Mark Henry.
Okay.
But the one of the house shows before, Christian and Randy Orton had a banger of a match.
Okay.
And I think he said Michael Hayes came up to him. It's like, wow, that match was amazing. They actually thought the title was going to change hands the night before a pay-per-view or something.
Wow. That's huge.
And
Good praise.
so we get some Money in the Bank. And the stipulation is, if Randy Orton is disqualified, Christian wins the title. So Christian's begging off. He's begging off. He spits in Randy Orton's face. I like this moment because you hear Booker on commentary just go, "Oh my god!"
And his classic
And
Booker
Randy
way.
is furious. Say what you will about Randy Orton, he plays pissed off better than most people.
I don't even know if he plays it. I think I think sometimes he just is.
Oh, remember his IED?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
His
yeah.
IED kicked in for the storyline.
Absolutely just
And then Randy just kicks him right in the balls.
right in the
And
groin.
you hear heel Michael Cole saying, "Is this what I think it means?" And Christian wins the title. He's raising it. He doesn't know where he is. And Randy Orton just RKO's him like 3 times, like on the announcer table.
Out of spite.
Yeah.
Yeah, he all over. Yeah.
And this World Heavyweight Championship reign would be longer, but not by much.
Yeah.
Christian
I guess.
drops it to Randy Orton at SummerSlam.
Again.
Becomes the one more match guy.
Again.
And that's kind of, he would win another Intercontinental Championship, but that was kind of him before he retired the first time.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of just
He silently retired, and it was.
kind of just went away. I think he had, like, an
And I
injury or
remember we
something.
would talk about this occasionally, saying, "Is Christian ever coming back? Is he ever going to get cleared?" But apparently he failed like concussion test, or they want to clear him due to his concussion history.
Yeah, I thought he was done.
Yeah.
I thought he was done.
And then Edge came back, and I'm just like, yeah, that's kind of different because that's with the neck. And then Christian came back.
Believe it or not, yeah.
I'm just like, oh wow, Christian's back.
Took him a while. Took him a while.
And he didn't re-sign with WWE.
Yeah.
He signed with AEW.
Another jump.
Another jump. Now, you didn't think Christian was coming back, right?
Right. So I thought he was, his career was kind of, maybe he'd do like a one more match type of thing, but I thought he was about to transition to an agent, all that, a trainer or whatever.
Technically, he did come back in the pandemic era against Randy Orton.
Yeah, I mean,
But
yes, you're right,
Yeah,
but still, I wasn't convinced. Still,
yeah, because at that time he was still on something called the no touch list, and that was what geared him to get checked out and get cleared again.
Right.
And he got his clearance around September when he had a bit part in Night of Champions when it was Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre, because Randy Orton was back on his Legend Killer Revenge tour.
Yeah, I do remember that actually. Yeah, good times.
And Christian said he signed with AEW over WWE because there wasn't any set plans for him.
Can you blame him?
And this was during the it's a new regime era creatively there.
Right. Sure.
And unfortunately, it's one of those things where you look at Edge and you look at Christian, and again, it goes to who would be more marketable.
Yeah.
Because Christian was in really good shape at this point, and so was Edge, really good shape. But you see Edge, who is going to play Ares in a Disney Plus show, and you see Christian, who is it's Christian.
Yeah, well, when you put it like that, it kind of spells the whole story right there. I mean, unfortunately.
Christian being in AEW is a great fit, in my opinion.
It's that breath of fresh air that I think AEW and Christian needed.
AEW gets the rap of just being about the matches and not about the story, which I can see.
Yeah.
But with Christian, he's a perfect fusion of both, who still puts on quality matches and can tell wonderful stories. right now in AEW, as time of this recording, he's feuding with Jungle Boy.
Just a turn.
And he was a very despicable heel during that entire time. And I love this, how he gets heat now. You know how he gets heat? And this is not promo. This has to do with his look. I'm not sure if you've been keeping up to date with AEW.
Ooh, tell me.
He wears a turtleneck with a suit jacket on. And everyone's like, he's wearing a turtleneck. I'm just like, that's how he gets heat?
Because,
just like the simplest things like that, you know?
That's kind of like old school heat a little bit, you know, where you kind of just like, as an announcer or anything, you kind of just pick up on something like,
yeah.
You know, you're like, he's doing that? Like,
yeah.
Okay. But, and then you go with it because it works.
Yeah. I'm gonna put you kind of on the spot right now.
Okay.
Remember WWE and TNA had that weird deal where they let Ric Flair in the Hall of Fame?
I was gonna talk about that earlier. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes. And then he came on to, was it Bound for Glory?
Slammiversary.
Slammiversary? Okay.
Yeah, like, so anyway, you guys don't even know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
this is all inside our heads right now. Yeah.
Man.
Go ahead.
So anyway, WWE wanted Ric Flair for the Hall of Fame to induct the Four Horsemen, the group from WCW.
Legends.
So it was kind of like a be good of, all right, we'll give you Ric Flair if down the line you'll give us a WWE star. When negotiating this
deal,
this comes from Bruce Pritchard's podcast, so you could take it for what it's worth. You could take his word or not. The terms were no Rock, no Cena.
Okay, well.
And Bruce was upset that they didn't bid for like a higher star to get, and instead they just got Christian. Which I was like, ugh. But Christian was the perfect person to be there. And Christian, after the fact, said it was a really weird feeling to be back there. Because he was Intercontinental Champion at the time, too.
And he left kind of, not saying the best terms, but not in the worst terms, obviously. It was a little...
It was just like, I'm going back to WWE.
Right, almost like a mutual thing-ish.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm not sure if he said he was kind of insulted, but it's like he was kind of used as like a bargaining chip.
Well, I mean, kind of.
And how does that make you feel in your place at the company at the time?
I mean, if you're a Christian, you're an Intercontinental Champion, you kind of have to just almost bite the bullet, I feel like. You're there, you come back, and you have to just, at this point, just avoid any unnecessary BS and just focus on yourself.
And at the same time, when you're live on a TNA show, you have to, and you're contracted to WWE, you have to make sure you're very careful with your words.
Oh yeah. So, but what's good about him is that when he did that appearance, he managed to turn it on to Christian Cage, and you saw it. The difference between Christian Cage and Christian.
There was a funny bit where he's like, he's in the middle of his promo, and he's like, wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like the ring's changed since I've been gone, Because the TNA always had the 6-sided ring, and now it's 4-sided. Top 3 Christian Cage matches.
So there was that, again, might have been just a random, that stuck out to me at least, a random TNA TV show. Him versus one-on-one versus AJ Styles. If I can find the video, I'll definitely send that to you. I remember watching it, just getting up and like, yo, this is amazing.
Oh, wow.
Like, I mean, Christian matches in TNA were kind of, they were 10 times better than WWE matches. Now, obviously, the style was different, the ring was different, the time was different as well. So we're gonna take that into account, but.
Right.
I have to say that one is probably one of mine. See, another Christian. See, I'm not gonna put his world title match, his ladder match in there. That's like an honorable mention because Christian is. I would say, I don't know. I don't know if he's my favorite wrestler alive today, but he's never really stopped. Once I got onto that Christian bandwagon when he came back from ECW, or. You were
consistently on the Christian. Like, I've never seen you go to different bandwagon.
No, that's my guy.
It's like I say, like kind of like being a Dolph Ziggler fan, and it's like being a Met fan in a lot of ways.
Yeah, once you get your team,
Yeah.
in some ways you almost have to like stick by them. Like
Through the good and the bad, that's what you do.
that's just how it is, unfortunately. I kind of already touched on this earlier, but I would say just because of where I was as a wrestling fan, that Chris Jericho storyline, WrestleMania 20, I want to say, uh, that was just because I don't know how old I was, but just being new into the wrestling world, I think I became a fan in like '04. So that was Wrestling 20 was my first real WrestleMania as a fan.
Yeah, I remember you got the DVD and stuff.
Oh, I still have that DVD. Absolutely, still have that one. WrestleMania. I think I had maybe the first 21 and 22. I think I have as well. But as far as I mean that match in WrestleMania, I just between like his snarkiness, the whole used to be his best friend,
CLB.
and then the CLB, and I again this was I was a young kid, but not seeing Trish Stratus swerve to cost Jericho the match. Yeah. And then like the kiss at the end was like the little
ooh boy.
Right, exactly. Well, different ratings. So like it was a little different. And honestly, I think I don't want to say it because it almost sounds cliche about this last match, but I mean you have to go like the old Christian Edge Hardy Boys. I mean Team 3D TLC. I mean come on, like that's a legendary match.
Yeah, it's the reason why a lot of matches happen today, and a lot of why people are in the business today.
I mean, all Hall of Famers. A whole match full of Hall of Famers is a Hall of Fame match.
Yeah. If
you really want to, break it down to what it really is, like that match is, just it's always stood out for me in my mind. So
I'm gonna hit you with a couple of mine. So I don't
Let's
know
hear it.
why I remember this match vividly. It's an episode of ECW.
Okay.
And remember bragging rights?
Unfortunately, I do.
So Chris Jericho was on ECW so he could recruit ECW stars to his SmackDown team. And Christian challenged him to a match on ECW. And I don't know why. I just remember really liking that match. I haven't watched it back since I probably first watched it, but I remember really enjoying because Jericho was my guy.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Suit Jericho.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is peak Jericho.
Oof. Different type of.
And Christian won clean. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice surprise. Christian getting a win over a big star.
Really big star.
Yeah.
Something like Chris Jericho, yeah.
And another one is a live TNA event I went to. It was Kurt Angle defending the TNA championship against Christian. And they went out there for 20 minutes and tore the house down.
See, I believe that. Yeah. I mean, that's just what they do. Those two guys, like, I can't tell you the amount of amazing matches they put on inside a TNA ring. Like, it's, and when we've seen them both live.
Yeah.
And we see them on pay-per-view everywhere. So
and I'm gonna hit you with this last one because we were actually there live for it.
Okay.
It was Christian defending the ECW title against Tommy Dreamer in an Extreme Rules match.
You know what? I do remember that match. Wow. Now, yeah.
And remember, Christian came out with the car door, and he's doing the peep sign, and then everyone in our row was chanting, "Use the car door, use the car door," and the finish was Christian hitting the "I'm Prettier" or kill switch on Dreamer on the car door.
Yep.
And then I remember because his theme wasn't released at this point, we were just kind of trying to record his theme as it was playing.
You hear how old we sound right now? Just so you guys know.
And then I think my favorite Christian match is the finale between him and Randy Orton, that no holds barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship. It was just a perfect way to
captivate it, yeah.
Cap the feud. I know they had like a cage match after, but that's what I feel like is their magnum opus of this storyline, which was my favorite storyline of the year.
Yeah, I may have to go back and watch that Christian match then. The no holds barred match, yeah.
It's on YouTube.
It's on. All right, well, I guess I know what I got to do after this.
Yep. All right. I think we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you all for joining us. DFD, are you still going to be DFD right now?
As of, I guess today, if anybody cares to follow my life, I will be _D Shay in whatever platforms that are out there. Not many out there, but enjoy.
Just go to every platform and try it.
Except MySpace, unfortunately.
R.I.P.
Didn't make it. Nope.
All right. You can follow me at Retold Richie at Twitter. You could follow me at One True Richie on the TikTok. You could follow me at Retold Richie Mars on Instagram. And you could listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, and many more. Thank you guys. I, of course, am Richie Mars. He is FD officially. We'll see you next time. Thank you.